These are the Doctor Strange V2 Paper Edition playing cards. The front of the Took box looks like the Eye of Agamotto, and it has a lot of green, blue, gold, and white metallic lines on it, and at the bottom it says Avengers. On the one long edge it says Doctor Strange. On the other side it says playing cards. The other side has some ad copy. The back looks like the Eye of Agamotto again, and it says Avengers again, just like the front. And another thing to note about all of these sides is each of the corners does have some runes. The top continues with the same pattern, and then if you open up the back, it ends up looking like this. Absolutely stunning. And then if you open up the front of the Tuck box, it ends up lighting up looking like this. Another thing to note is that the actual inside part here actually does lift up. You'll actually see that there at the bottom. It actually slides up and down, which is the thing that turns on the light, so that way it's not always on. Another thing to note is right here on the inside, you'll see that there's a magnet right here, so it snaps into place. You'll never have to wonder about it coming open. And the way that it lights up is by putting batteries in it. And actually, if you look right here on the top, there's a little slit where you can see a little bit of a light coming out. All you have to do is pull that out, put the batteries in it that they give you, and then you're all good to go. But that's all I can say for this Tuck box, so let's take a look at the cards inside. But we're not just going to be looking at these playing cards, we're also going to be looking at these playing cards. Now from the Tuck boxes, they look exactly the same, and if you're just taking a look at the boxes, they are. But these are paper playing cards, and these are not. These playing cards are made out of a PVC material. So this deck review is going to be both of these decks combined. This one absolutely beautiful, as you can see, and the main difference between this one, excluding the actual stock of it, is the fact that the borders are going to be black. So instead of that, the only issue with it being this way is the fact that if you actually Faro shuffle or do anything where you drop the cards or ding up the sides, it's very noticeable with black bordered decks. And then you have the PVC version, which looks like this. So again, all the inside is going to be the same. The coloring is slightly different, where like the yellow is more gold, where this side it's a little bit more brown. So you do have slight variations in color just because of like when you print ink on different materials, it's going to look slightly different. But I do personally, I think I like the white bordered more. Then you've got your number cards. So you have, again, this black background, and you have a green line all the way around, and you have, instead of black cards, of course, since it's a black card stock, now we went brown. This is what your spades look like. So they're all hollowed out, the basic same shape for your pips, and your indices though are going to be customized completely. So custom indices, and then your values are going to be pretty well standard as well. And then for your diamonds, they are not hollowed out. They just have a little bit of a line cut out and slightly reshaped. Then these are your clubs, and these are your hearts. And then when it comes to the PVC version, again, you're going to have a white background, white around the outside, and then your blacks are going to actually be back with just a hint of brown around the outside. Then you get to the diamonds, they're going to be the same except for the white now. When you get to clubs, once again, black is actually in the background with a hint of brown, and then back to hearts. And here you are for your three aces that say Avengers and Doctor Strange on each of them, and I really do enjoy the coloring for each of these. And simply because of the way that these, and specifically the paper version, are colored, I wonder if this green actually glows under black light. Now, for the PVC version, I'm not sure if it will, but I'd be actually pretty surprised if the paper version did not. Now these are the cards that actually have the most difference when it comes from the paper version to the PVC paper version, because the contrast is very different. So each of the different court cards, you have something different. So you have Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange you're actually going to see twice. So the first time you're going to see him on the King of Spades. Then you have Iron Man, you have the Wasp, there you have Thor. Now onto the King of Clubs, you have the Black Panther, and I actually just did a review of the Black Panther playing cards, which I'll talk about in a second. Then you have Okoye, you have the Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, and once again you have Doctor Strange. Now this is what they're going to look like for the PVC version. Definitely way more clear, but I definitely like the green cards on these better on the paper version, but I like the brown cards better on this version. I just feel like there's more contrast when it comes to those. So I just, honestly, extremely well done. But I do find it interesting that they had two of the Doctor Strange cards, considering on other decks, they didn't have like a second Doctor Strange, they'd have a second one of something else. So if you want to see that all the others are going to look the same if you look at the Black Panther deck. But this one on the Black Panther deck is not the same. So if you want to check that out for this one or any of the other CardMafia decks, you'll have to check out the reviews that I link in the description below. Next, for the paper version, you have semi-duplicate jokers of the Eye of Agamotto that say Avengers and Doctor Strange. And in this case, I definitely like the paper version better. And last but not least, your Doctor Strange playing cards V2 Paper Edition Ace of Spades, and your Doctor Strange V2 playing cards PVC Edition Ace of Spades. Now, because one is paper and one is PVC, they're going to handle extremely differently. So first, let's start with a Faro shuffle from bottom to top to see how that's going to handle. And as you can see, it literally Faros every other beautifully. Absolutely no issues there. And then we'll check from top to bottom as well, because a lot of decks do Faro differently from one side to the other, dependent on how they are cut. And this one Faros every other both ways. So for the paper version, you are all set. And then on to the PVC version. So this time we're going to go from bottom to top and every other perfectly. And then we're going to have the top to bottom Faro shuffle. And this time, once again, every other. Man, honestly, I'd probably say these are a little bit easier to Faro, just because of the fact that it's almost like more of a plastic, and the plastic cards almost always Faro better. But there's definitely some flaws when it comes to the finish, which I'll talk about right now. Because paper playing cards have little pockets of air, which is why double lifts are easier to do, and the reason behind why you can do things like this, throw it up, catch it, even though that is 2 cards. Because what I did was I actually pushed out all the air when I did this move right here. That way the cards would stick together instead of sliding apart. It's the reason why they glide so easy when you do this, and the reason why under pressure actually works with paper playing cards. Where in comparison to the PVC paper, this is what ends up happening. It just looks like that. But when it comes to the stock and the feel of these playing cards, these things are definitely going to be more on the buttery side and a little bit thicker. So thicker than a normal bicycle deck. And then when it comes to the more buttery side, that's less for things like Backdrop, which looks like this, or for something like ATM, like this, because these are things that are more for more snappy decks, where in comparison, ATM, like I showed you before, under pressure, or if you do something like a card spring, both of those moves are going to be for things more like buttery decks. But then when it comes to the PVC version, it's definitely a different story, because first of all, it is about the same thickness when it comes to that, but honestly, it is one of the most malleable decks that you will ever handle. So like a card spring, if it is literally your first time picking up a deck of cards, there is not going to be an easier deck to do a card spring with than this deck right here. It is the easiest deck if you are a beginner and don't have very strong hands yet. This is definitely by far the deck for you. Now, when it comes to the actual feel of them, I definitely put it on the buttery side, although snappy things do work, like Backdrop, or let's actually see if ATM will work considering the issue with the finish. It definitely has a bit of a friction issue, but besides that, for the most part, I think you should be fine. And then when it comes to, obviously, buttery moves like Under Pressure, that does not hardly work at all, but that is one of the easiest decks I've ever done a card spring with in my entire life. Actually, I can't think of a single deck in my entire collection where there's one that's easier. Actually, the Dribble would apply to that as well. That's just, listen. And I will definitely be linking both of the different versions in the description below, so you can check out either of these that you want to pick up. But this is not the only deck that the CardMafia has put out, because as I said a second ago, I have also reviewed the Black Panther playing cards by the CardMafia, which open up like this. Then you get the little ears here, you get the necklace at the bottom, and the glowing eyes. So definitely super cool. And if you want to check out all the stuff about this and actually where to actually pick up the cards and where they actually come out, then you'll have to check out the review, which is going to pop up right here. And you can check out the Doctor Strange playing cards V2 right here if you want to pick them up from the CardMafia.